My dear friends, my name is Jacob Fiveash, and welcome to Uncaged Zoo Tours. If you are new to the channel and love animals, I recommend and appreciate hitting the like and subscribe buttons and the bell icon to join me on my tours. Today, we're heading back to the city that never sleeps, New York City, for a fourth tour at the world-famous Bronx Zoo. This wild place has so much to offer, and we already went to Jungle World, Madagascar, and the Mouse House. Those three sections are some of my favorites at the Bronx, but there's another exhibit that takes the cake. Next to the African plains is the award-winning and critically acclaimed Congo Gorilla Forest. Ever since it opened in 1999, this exhibit was considered to be the largest African rainforest exhibit at the time. Over 15 million visitors have learned how the Congo stood out from other rainforests and how the zoo has played a big role in conservation, which we will also learn about today. Grab your pith helmets and let's begin. The Congo Gorilla Forest is near the giraffes in the African plains. And as we enter the dark, mysterious forest, the first animals on the trail are Angolan Colobus monkeys. Colobus monkeys don't have thumbs, but scientists believe that their lack of thumbs helps them swing from branch to branch in the canopy. Before they are even seen, Colobus monkeys are heard crashing through the trees. When moving from tree to tree, they make death-defying leaps into the forest canopy. However, Colobus monkeys are vulnerable due to being hunted for food and deforestation. But the Wildlife Conservation Society, or WSC, which operates the Bronx Zoo, has worked in partnership with local governments to train a group of people called eco-guards. These people monitor wildlife, prevent poaching, and serve as ambassadors to make people aware of conservation laws. Let's move on. The Congo is located in Central and Western Africa, and is the second largest rainforest in the world after the Amazon rainforest in South America. One of the most iconic species that live there is the Okapi. I mentioned before that okapis are so elusive that they weren't discovered by Western scientists until 1901. But the real question is, how can you track an animal that's related to the giraffe that you can't see? Well, another way the WSC studies animals in the Congo is by using radio tracking, which is similar to how they track gharials in Asia. First, an okapi is caught and collared with a harmless radio transmitter before being released back into the wild. Then, researchers wait and listen for a ping sound from the transmitter. By rotating an antenna until the ping is loudest, the researchers find where the okapi is. All this tracking helps the researchers determine how much land okapis need and how they use the forest. By plotting the range of 4 okapis, the researchers learned that female okapis are a lot more territorial than males. The WSC has also partnered up with Mbudi people, who live in the Uturi forest and have helped them identify different plants and animals in hopes of having a better understanding of what an okapi's habitat is like. The next two animals live in a mixed species habitat. First are mandrills, one of the most colorful monkeys around. And what's even cooler is that a baby mandrill named Bjorn was born back in 2023, which brings the total number of mandrills at the Bronx Zoo to 9. A mandrill's gestation period is 6 months, and although they can give birth to one baby, some captive females can give birth to twins. Mandrills communicate by smiling, which may look scary, but it's a way of communication. They also make a loud human-like scream, followed by a series of grunts to start the day. If a mandrill does get upset, if the primate is excited, they display red spots on their wrists and ankles and a blue chest. The blue-colored markings on their behinds become more noticeable. But the mandrills also live with another colorful animal, the red river hog. They use their snouts to locate underground food. Red river hogs are omnivores, which means they eat both plants and animals. In this case, they can eat anything from nuts and berries to small mammals and reptiles. Following that is the African rock python. Contrary to popular belief, rock pythons, like other constrictor snakes, do not crush animals to death. Instead, they use their coils to squeeze prey every time it exhales. Once the prey can no longer breathe, the python swallows it whole. Rock pythons also have sharp needle-like teeth that help the snake hold on to large prey, so it doesn't escape. Their heads are divided into 4 sections, 2 on each jaw that are connected by ligaments. A python's jaw muscles work together to swallow prey whole so that the snake can eat the whole thing. This area is also home to smaller animals like these cichlids, but there's also our first Nile monitor. Like the rock python, Nile monitors are very determined hunters, as they can eat crocodile eggs, frogs, insects, rodents, and even other lizards. Sometimes, monitor lizards may work together to steal crocodile eggs. One may provoke the mother croc, while another may sneak in and steal the eggs. A female Nile monitor lays over 60 eggs, which is more than other lizards in termite mounds. The termites repair the damage while the eggs incubate, and they hatch when the wet season begins. There are also ornate bichirs, Reagan's Julie, ball pythons, Cameroon red tarantulas, emperor scorpions, butterfly fish, elephant nose knifefish, and fire skinks. But there's also our first sun beetles, who are also called taxicab beetles because of their coloring, but they're too small to drive a cab. When they're larvae, sun beetles feed underground, but when they reach adulthood, they feed above ground in large groups. There are also some very cute African clawed frogs. They love getting close to the glass. But there's also the white-spotted assassin bug. They're called assassins because they stalk their prey. Their bright colors warn predators of their painful bite and bad taste. But then there's the giant African millipede, who is a lot less toxic than their neighbor. The word millipede means 1,000 feet, and scientists have discovered that millipedes were some of the first animals to live on land, and could be found in many habitats around the world. Giant African millipedes can smell and taste with all parts of their body. When it's threatened, the millipede can curl up into a ball, but if that doesn't work, it can secrete a foul-tasting fluid that will make a predator think twice about messing with it. Next door is an African bullfrog, which has their own way of defending itself. They may inflate their body and attack an intruder, all while opening their mouth. The Congo is full of surprises because it holds more carbon than the Amazon rainforest, and it's also home to the Congo River, which is Africa's second longest river next to the Nile, and is also the deepest river in the world. There's also a Calabar python and one of the coolest animals in this exhibit, the West African lungfish. These fish live in floodplains that often dry up, so to protect themselves from getting dried, the lungfish secretes a thin layer of mucus around itself that dries into a cocoon. They can live out of water for a year inside the cocoon, breathing through their lungs until it rains again. Lungfish can also use their hind limbs to propel themselves forward. Scientists believe that they are related to a group of extinct animals called tetrapods. Believe it or not, the lungfish can hibernate like a squirrel. The lungfish digs 1 to 9 inches into the bottom of a waterway, then wiggles into the mud to create a bulb-shaped chamber and rests there with its nose pointing upward. It can stay in this state for up to 4 years. Past the shellcracker fulu and another view of the Red River hogs is the wolf's Guenon. Like the mandrill, Guenons are pretty colorful too. When 2 family groups face off to drive each other from a fruit tree, each Guenon species uses its own distinct markings and colors to flash messages to others of their own kind. Other Guenon species don't recognize the signals. Over 500,000 years ago, there was only one species of Guenon, and they lived in fragments of forest. Many Guenon populations evolved into different species, and now there are over 20 different species of Guenons living in rainforests across Africa. And now, ladies and gentlemen, living with an African pygmy goose and long-tailed hornbill, is our first Congo peacock. Sorry, I mean Congo peafowl, because only males are called peacocks. Out of the 3 species of peafowl, Congo peafowl are the only species that lives in Africa, and they're just as elusive as the okapi. These birds live in pairs or small groups and were finally described as a species in 1936. And even today they're hard to study due to their cautious nature. They may be smaller than their Indian and Javan cousins, but the males can still spread their beautiful tails into a fan. In the early 20th century, a scientist named James Chapman, who after failing to find an okapi in the Congo, noticed some reddish-brown feathers in a headdress, weren't from any birds that he saw. When Chapman went to a museum in 1934, he noticed 2 stuffed birds with similar feathers were from Indian peafowl, but he later found out that they were from the Congo peafowl. In 1955, Chapman managed to find 7 peafowl. The next area contains displays that showcase animals in the Congo are threatened by deforestation and the bushmeat trade, which are some of the main reasons why the Congo, like other rainforests, is in serious trouble. But some displays showcase some of the Congo's residents, some masks, and a partially chopped tree, which I think is a great way to remind people about conservation. But there are also some interactive features. Let me press this button, and it looks like it reminds us what a protected area is like. I feel like saving the best for last, and even though they live in South America, I'm really glad I'll get to talk about them. Say hello to our first Pygmy Marmoset. They are one of the smallest primates in the world, but they're a little bigger than a mouse lemur. A baby Pygmy Marmoset is the size of a thumb, and adults can fit right into my hand and are as heavy as the phone I was using to record them. Pygmy marmosets live in families of 5 to 9 monkeys. After a female marmoset gives birth, the male and older siblings help raise the babies, carrying them around on their backs and bringing them to the female to nurse. Using their sharp teeth, Pygmy marmosets chew holes in trees to drink tree sap. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the last animal on this tour is one of the reasons why you should subscribe. Say hello to the western lowland gorilla, the world's largest primate. Adult male gorillas have very strong jaw muscles, and they have a bite force of 1,300 pounds, giving them the strongest bite of any primate. That's as heavy as 2 female polar bears. On top of that, a gorilla's canine teeth can be used to bite predators or other silverbacks. Gorillas can eat over 10% of their weight in food a day. It's like eating 10 hamburgers in one day. A gorilla's colon, or large intestine, is way more efficient at producing energy. We can't eat leaves from trees, but a gorilla's colon contains bacteria that breaks it down, giving them the energy they need to fight or climb trees. However, nearly all gorillas in zoos are zoo-born, and like their wild cousins are led by a silverback. Keepers make sure the gorillas are okay by providing healthy diets, while veterinarians provide medical care for any sick or injured gorillas. Because these apes are endangered, the WSC has worked with the government of the Congo to protect gorillas and other residents of the Congo since 1992. For example, WCS scientists have watched gorillas and other animals come out of the forest to a clearing known as a bai, where they feed on plants. Besides, when it comes to saving a habitat, it's important to study multiple animals that live there. Also, the WCS has collaborated with people near the Nubali Nadoki National Park, which also creates lots of new jobs for people. The WCS has also created Club Ibobo, which is a program designed to teach children about the wildlife who live in the national park and the importance of saving it for the future. This exhibit has also played a big role in saving animals. Over 13 million visitors have visited the Congo gorilla forest and learned about the urgency of rainforest conservation and have been left inspired to save wildlife. This exhibit has also raised millions of dollars that go towards WSC research in the Congo. These donations have helped create 19 national parks and expand one national park in Africa. On top of that, the Congo gorilla forest has helped with breeding various animals. Since 1999, 18 gorillas, 23 red river hogs, 4 okapis, and 11 wolf's Guenons have been born here. And before we leave, the zoo congratulates you for visiting this exhibit. And if you visit this exhibit, don't forget to donate. And after all that, we are finally done with one of the best exhibits around. After everything I just said, I would highly recommend visiting this exhibit when you visit the Bronx Zoo, because seeing gorillas and learning how the WSC plays a big part in conservation can leave a lasting impression on you. Now it's time to vote. Which exhibit at the Bronx Zoo would you like to see next? If we visit the Gelada Reserve, we'll meet peacocks, sparring ibexes, and even gelada baboons, which are always a treat to have in a zoo, since the only other place to see them in the United States is San Diego. We'll also learn how the Bronx Zoo has helped scientists understand geladas. Our second choice is the African Plains, where we'll see gazelles, grebe zebras, dwarf mongooses, a baby nyala, lions, giraffes, spotted hyenas, painted dogs, and even an active aardvark. Our final choice is a 2-in-1 of the aquatic birdhouse and seabird aviary. We'll see flamingos, 2 types of penguins, puffins, 2 types of spoonbills, and even our first kiwi, kingfisher, and storm stork. Today's question is, if you were to visit the Congo, which animal would you be the most excited to see and why? Thank you for watching my videos, and I'll see you next time. You're smart, creative, and kind.